but she really got negative, wanted to give up. I tell her, hey, give her examples, and so that's my whole purpose.
Staying positive, optimistic, and enjoying life, I think, is the biggest, most important part, right?
It is. It is, especially when you're old. Man, it can get on you.
Welcome or welcome back to Find Your Power podcast. I am your host, Avery Jane, and today's episode was inspired by a spontaneous conversation I had. Some of the most meaningful conversations in our lives don't happen on purpose. They happen in passing, at airports, in waiting rooms, or in moments that we would normally rush through. We live in a world that quietly convinces us that there's a timeline for everything, like when to succeed, when to heal, when to slow down, and when to stop dreaming. Today's guest is living proof that none of that is true. In this episode, I'm sitting down with Mildred, or Millie, Norris, an 85-year-old retired healthcare educator who earned her doctorate at age 76 and is currently choosing discipline, creativity, and purpose in her life.
What is something that brought you a little bit of joy this week?
Oh, well, being able to get up every morning and get going, and if things seem to be going well with my taxes and stuff like that. So
good.
Yeah, no major problems with anything. That's the most important thing.
Of course, yeah. You want to kind of explain to the listeners how this conversation came to be, how we kind of got to where we are now, there with your son on the way to going to a cruise the first time, and then that's when we met, and then on the way back, I got you guys again at my same section, which was really cool. And yeah, we were talking a little bit about how you are interested in starting a blog soon. Yeah. How has that been going?
Well, slow, because I just finally retired just before that cruise in November. Mm-hmm. I have either worked in healthcare or taught college classes in healthcare. And I just retired last November 16th. And so many things I've got more time for. So I've been enjoying those things, and the blog, I still write, like when I get up in the middle of the night like that, I'll write some things, put them in a folder. So I'm still working on it, but it hasn't materialized.
It's kind of right now just the beginning stages where you're collecting your thoughts and ideas, right?
Right.
Putting it all together to later publish.
Right. And I've read some blogs where they have one long thing or, and it's very attractive and the information's very meaningful, but I have a variety of topics. And I thought if I had topic sections, people could pick what they wanted, and just have them short. So it's like brief, but it covers different areas to get different people's interest.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good way to organize it. I did want to ask you, when going back to our conversation at the airport, what kind of made you feel comfortable to strike up that conversation?
Because you were young and in school, and I'm an educator. I'm interested in that.
Can you share a little bit about your career in teaching healthcare?
Well, actually, it got a slow start because from the time I was 8 years old, I would set up my dolls and a blackboard, and I was going to be a teacher. When I graduated high school, I went to college 1 year, and then I got married. Life changed.
Yeah.
And so down the road, and 4 children later that are grown out of high school, I went back to school because I had worked in healthcare and it was interesting. I learned a lot. I had certifications, and I had gone to classes in an accredited program by the American Health Information Management Association and got my credentials through them. And they had teaching opportunities. Ah, yes.
Nice.
So with my associates and my certifications, I was qualified to teach in their associate's degree program. And then I found out there was a place in town that had been opened by National Louis University, a branch from them up north, and they offered a bachelor in healthcare leadership. Well, with a 4-year degree, I could be full-time faculty.
Mm-hmm.
So I went ahead and got my bachelor's, and I enjoyed it so much. 2 weeks after the bachelor's, I went into the master's program. Well, I had my health information management degree. I had a leadership in healthcare, and my master's was in education, in curriculum and instruction. I wanted to know how to teach and build what people should learn or study. And so with that, I wound up being a full-time faculty in Ocala, Florida. And I was there for a few years, and then I was teaching online as well. And a gentleman in one of the schools that I was teaching, I think it was Virginia College, he suggested that I go for a doctorate. And I said, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, I was old. I was in my 60s.
Mm.
And he said, no, you're not too old. Do it. So I thought, well, he knew I was teaching for them and everything. So he must have known I would do okay. So I enrolled and got my doctorate when I was 76.
Wow, very cool.
Teaching began.
Yeah, I really like that story. Once you got your doctorate, you did some more teaching, or what path did you go on after that?
Oh, yeah. I have, for the 29 years, I've taught in colleges, the associate's program and healthcare. And I wound up at Colorado Technical University for 15 years.
Okay. So you liked it there?
Yeah, I loved it. I enjoyed teaching online. Yeah, in 2000, I was trained to teach online. I had been teaching about 4 years, classroom. And I had done classroom after 2000, but that's when I was trained to, and let me tell you, it was a lot different.
Mm-hmm.
In 2000. I mean, you couldn't use capital letters, you couldn't use colors, you couldn't do a lot of things because of learning disabilities.
Mm.
You know, some students wouldn't be able to see colors and different things, and capital letters was yelling, you know, you didn't.
Right.
And so, yes, it's 180 out different right now from
Yeah.
us in.
Yeah, I bet. So what kind of originally drew you to healthcare and teaching? I mean, I know you enjoyed it when you were a kid with your dolls, but what made you actually want to do it as a career?
Oh, I always did. I wanted,
Right.
that's why I went to school originally, to be a teacher, you know, my first year of college. I guess some of my teachers just meant so much to me. They were important people that enhanced and helped me gain knowledge and guided me, gave me confidence. I was a very lack of confidence person.
Well, that's really important. I think teachers play a much bigger role than a lot of people put off.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's tough. And what makes it tough is you have so many different learning styles, different situations, home lives, personalities. I mean, there's more variables than you can count on both hands when you really get down to working with people that way and to be able to understand it. And hey, you know, if you have a bad day yourself, how can you feel good to pass on to them? You've got to put a lot of that aside. And I kept working at it, you know, improving the longer I did it. And I think the word they need is objectivity. You must be objective when you're teaching. You can't be opinionated. You can't have your own feelings, and look at how can I help this person, And let me tell you, there's times that being online is a benefit because
Mhm.
you read some of the things some students can say to you, and you can go, well, you know,
Right.
and you could reply with things that wouldn't be very nice. And so when you're online and you can withdraw like that, you can stop and think. You can go get a cup of coffee,
Right.
come back and say, they must be having a bad day. Or you have to look at too, how have I made that bad an impression on that person?
Mhm.
We're not
That's true.
perfect.
That's
So
true.
yeah, there's a lot. It's a complicated process, I think.
Yeah. So did you have experiences teaching in person as well, or only mostly online?
I spent more years online than I did face to face, but out of 29 years, I still had a good 10 years of in classroom at
Okay.
least. So yeah, and I taught a variety of classes, different
Mhm.
types. And in one period of time, I was in charge of a program at one of the community colleges, a coding program
Oh,
to
cool.
to prepare them to take the coding exam. Yeah.
That's really cool. Did you have any favorite classes to teach?
No,
No,
not
you liked
really.
them all. Mhm.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Give me something to teach and I'll do it. Except statistics.
Oh,
Can't I had to take statistics twice in my doctorate. I
Mhm.
That's not my field.
Nope. Yeah. Well, there's always one.
Yeah, not math, not English classes and literature and healthcare and yeah, I can do that. I can do anatomy. I can do a lot of things like that, but not math and statistics.
It sounds like you really enjoyed teaching. Is there something that led you to retire?
Yeah, I was 85. Well, I was 84, gonna be 85 in a month.
Yeah.
And actually, there was a couple of things. It was taking more time. The students I was getting didn't seem to be as prepared as they should have been. I was having to do additional time teaching and answering questions about software because in this last class I was teaching, they had to go off site out of the um, college um, website into another website where their study materials were.
Mhm.
And it was set up really great. It was really nice, but they struggled with some of that. And I'm like, students in their last class of a 2-year program should not be struggling with how you navigate online,
Right.
especially some of them wouldn't use a laptop, they'd use their phone.
Mm.
I wasn't about to help them with their phone on that. They were required to have a laptop. I can manage most things with my phone, but not to write a class paper,
Right.
not to do that sort of thing. So, yeah, it got to where I thought, I think it's time to do something else.
Yeah.
And at first, it was really hard. I waited a year before I actually retired. I had thought about it sooner, but I didn't want to. But
Yeah.
with not having any time to do anything else because it was just exhausting. I had messages constantly from students, and
Mhm.
no, I got to do something else.
The world has become to the point where everyone's constantly available to everyone.
Yeah.
And I think that that gets very draining very quickly.
Yes, yes, it was. It was, And yeah, you could set up parameters and say only between this hour. Well, suppose they worked every day at that time. I was too available.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I had one student in Iraq. She
Oh,
was in
wow.
the yeah, she was in the military and she was over there. And so when she was available, I was answering her questions.
Mhm.
Yeah, time changes.
When we had our little talk at the airport, you mentioned feeling concerned about people teaching for the wrong reasons, and I kind of wanted you to explain that a little more deeply.
Yeah, and when I read your question, you had asked me about that. I realized that that was a kind of broad statement.
Mhm.
It could sound accusatory towards people that were teaching that maybe shouldn't, but that's not really what I fully meant. It seems like, and if you read, I read a lot about higher ed articles that are posted and magazines on education. And colleges began hiring more adjuncts than tenured professors. And, there's pros and cons there, like with a lot of stuff. Tenure, sometimes they feel like they get to these positions and they become lazy, you know? So the schools don't want to have tenured people and pay them extra money if they're just a figurehead. And so the adjuncts come along at a lower payment rate and or no benefits and cost the college less. And which is good because there are people that know how to teach better than some teachers, really. So I have I think that's good, and they can be interesting because they bring a lot of experience with them, and that's important as well. And I was going through and cleaning out some file drawers, and I found lots of interesting articles I had collected in my doctorate program about second career teachers. And I'm thinking about gathering these all up and writing something about that, an assessment of where we are today, you know. And so, yeah, I feel that there's a lot of complicated things there because you do have some people that don't know how to teach. They're not concerned about that. They just want it to look good on their resume,
Right.
their job that they work and all. But
Yeah.
I would say the majority of them are there because they want to be and they
Mhm.
want to help people learn what they have spent a long time learning, which is good because that experience, I mean, somebody that goes through college and goes out there, I couldn't have taught healthcare like I did without having been there and done that. So that's why I feel like sometimes second career teachers are very valuable.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I think having a passion for what you do is important in anything, especially when it comes to teaching, because if you're not passionate about what you're doing, if you don't care as much about actually having an impact on your students, then they're probably going to sense that, and they're probably not going to be impacted as much as they should be,
Right,
and they're
right,
not going to learn as well either.
right.
How have your values kind of shaped the way that you live your life?
Well, um, I don't know why. I mean, I can't explain it fully, but I just felt that having somebody trust me was very important. Um, and I felt that being honest was very important. I think I had seen as a kid some dishonest relatives, and my mom and dad were good people, and I just felt that that was just really, really important to know that if people could depend on my word, if I gave you my word to do something, you could count on it. And to me, I don't know, maybe it's just the way my personality or the way my DNA is. I just always felt that was necessary. it's paid off in the long run because people have trusted me, and I've had some. My family, my children have grown up responsible, and I think that's good.
Yeah, I think trust is a very big quality to have for other people, but also being truthful is a big value and quality to have as well.
Well, it's hard. I mean, I had a disagreement with one of my granddaughters for several years because she had a temper, and her mother was very easy with her and kind. I said I would have spanked that child. And but right now, today, she's like a best friend. So, sometimes you have to be honest, even though it's painful.
Yeah.
Um, and even though I would tell her, you're really, you're being a bad child or something like that, it was honest. It's what I felt, but it didn't have me love her any less.
Of course.
They don't feel that love because all they hear is what you're saying. But
Mhm.
I feel that sometimes people miss the boat on that.
Kind of switching over to the health aspect that you were mentioning when we talked. You said that you're tracking what you eat and kind of your supplements, maybe your habits. What inspired you to do this?
Well, I was sickly as a child. I had migraine headaches. I would get excited about something and up the food would come. Just different things always. I guess after I had my first child, they gave me exercises to do. Now, I had gone through gym classes and all that stuff, and I wasn't real good at it. But anyway, after my first child, I did those exercises and I felt good. And then came along TV. My two were Denise Austin and the guy before her. And I watched those two that helped me exercise. I exercised with them every day. I would exercise, and they would talk about the things you're supposed to eat. Well, I had a big family. I had four children. I cooked a lot of food,
Mhm.
and I was busy. I mean, I worked it off between working and taking care of them, and all the things that you do. And I felt better, keeping my weight down, and I was very flexible. And I just seemed to keep it up. And then after he was not doing the shows anymore, and this Denise Austin picked up, I followed her until my dog bit my CD.
The dog ate your homework.
So, but I continued after that. And right now, today, I go to Fit for Life twice a week. A lady in her, well, she's in about 70 now. She leads the exercise class, and I have a gym membership, and I just feel better. And right now, I am a little overweight, but I working in healthcare. I feel like there's just too many medicines and all these medications advertised on TV. Oh, it just makes me want to choke because if you read it, this makes you sick. Well, they tried to put me on blood pressure medicine,
Mhm.
and I tried it. And after about 3 weeks, I get so tired and fatigued, I don't want to get out of my chair. So, and it's a very low dose. So, what I did was increase the cardio supplement that I use, and my blood pressure is coming down lower without the blood pressure medicine. So,
Uh,
you have to research and read, and having done research, getting my degrees,
mhm.
working in healthcare, I learned more and more and more. And I highly recommend that people find things and get the things that are pure. Don't just take somebody's word for it. Go online and read about it because not everything is really safe for you,
Right.
and you can have conflicting things. And what's good for me might not be good for you. We're
Okay.
different.
Yeah.
But you see, healthcare treats everybody across the line. So, and who I buy from now mainly is the people's chemist. his name is Shane Ellison,
Mhm.
and he's a chemist that quit working for the pharmaceutical companies because he didn't like what they said and has his own company. And so, yeah, I admire these people that stand up and do what's right.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to education in healthcare, that's probably the most important part of staying healthy because what you don't know, you're you're not going to practice.
We
Yeah.
had sugar for years, but now everything's got sugar in it. They put sugar in hot dogs, so
Yeah.
we're overloaded. Yeah, I won't get into nutrition.
That'll be it for a different time. When it comes to the new healthy habits that you're adapting, maybe that's exercise, maybe that's eating healthily. Is there something in particular that keeps you going? Because this is hard to do every single day, being consistent.
I don't do it every day. I I don't know. There's something different when you. I was driven most of my life and made myself do things, but you pass 80 and that whole thing changes, unfortunately. That's why I'm still overweight. I feel like, hey, I want to enjoy this. I could be gone tomorrow.
That's fair. That's completely fair.
It's important to get yourself going, but I think what really has helped me most of my life, I knew God was there from the time I was 8 years old. He's always looked after me. I haven't always listened to him. That's why I made some mistakes and stuff. But folks, being old, we can't sit here and blame ourselves for things that if we had done different, because we don't know what the results would have been from that different. It could
Exactly.
have been a lot worse than what we have right now. So yeah, you can't just look at that sort of thing. You've got to just know that God forgives you and thank Him for another day and live. When you ask me about my values, well, I was raised with the Ten Commandments,
Mhm.
and I was raised with some other things like that you follow. You do, you know, and yeah, you're going to slip because you're human, but
Right.
you don't deliberately slip. You don't, it happens. We're human.
So I'm guessing that when it comes to, like you said, once you hit 80 and get past there, the idea of being productive all the time doesn't become as important anymore either.
Well, I can't say that. I now exercise once in a while. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm hesitant. Not having classes and diverting my attention to all these other areas now. Um, I'm waiting to see some kind of change, that will happen. But no, I am sewing now, and if somebody needs something fixed, the elastic broke or a seam fell out, I'll be glad to fix it. Working on some stuff for a lady locally. So yeah, I'm sewing and I'm going through and cleaning out old stuff that has piled up because when I was taking care of my husband, I didn't worry about it. You know,
Yeah.
you know how you put stuff in a drawer and I'll get to it later.
Right.
Grieving was kind of rough. I was with my husband for 63 years. And for 2 years, even my son said, Mom, I kept trying to get you interested in something. I was still teaching, but it wasn't the same. And so, yes, this can be very difficult. But many of my friends are productive. They still ride their bicycle or they do stuff. And I write a newsletter for my classmates from 1958. We graduated high school. And I send it by email to 122 remaining classmates, and some of them snail mail, put it in an envelope
Very
and
cool.
out and send it to those who don't have, emails. And I think, we need to help each other get through these older years. I mean, hey, we've worked hard.
Yeah, definitely. When it comes to productivity, I think it looks different now for you, but of course it is important to be productive in any way.
It's slower.
Right.
Everything is slower. I
Right.
don't get in a hurry because if you get in a hurry, you can stumble and fall. But yes, thinking is slower, moving is slower,
Hmm.
uh, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Who's got to be in a hurry? But there's so many people, young people, that are stressed to the max. They're stressed out, and I can understand it.
Yeah. I hear that a lot, honestly. Say that they can't imagine being in my generation in today's world.
I think in some ways you've missed something. Um, because even though, we were back when there were wringer washers in wash tubs, and you put your clothes through the wringer and you had to be careful or it'd pop the buttons off and break the zippers and and stuff like that. Whereas everything is automated. You throw it in, it does it, you punch the buttons, you put
Right.
it in the dryer. This is wonderful. I enjoy it. Um, but it seems like along with all of this, there's more stress in everybody's life. It
It's
all
true.
goes back to health.
Well, I did want to kind of go back to what you were mentioning a little bit before, with the loss of your husband, and you did also have significant losses with your son as well. What was that season like for you?
Well, that was really, yeah, I lost my husband, my son, my daughter in law, my sister in law, and a brother in law, and all in one year. It went from November of 22 until October of 23. And yeah, for 2 years, I was kind of like, gee, you know, um, everything I looked at reminded me of somebody or something, and everybody has their own problems with some of that because you have different relationships with different people. Um, but it was very tough, but God saw me through it, and He's got me busy now.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah.
mhm. I'm glad to hear that. Do you have any advice for anybody that might be going through a season of their life similar to that with significant loss?
Just pray and have people pray for you. Um, it helps, and you know, I don't know sometimes what anybody. I mean, my family was very supportive, my children and all friends. Um, you just have to make up your mind that you're still there and there is a purpose for you. And no, we do not like all of the things that happen in our lives that cause us pain and agony. People die, they get sick, they whatever. But you tell people God has a plan and they go, yeah, right, you know. But think about it. This has been going on since the beginning of time. There's been the wars, the people, the pain, the struggling, same thing that's going on today. It doesn't matter what century you're in. And yes, he took my husband before me. And okay, so he's still got something for me to do, and I've got to do it. And you have to think about not just yourself, think about the people around you, your family. And if you don't have a lot of close family members, what about your friends? You've got somebody, and you're hurting them if you're not trying to come out of that. You got to to really, yes, I know how painful it is, and I know what I'm saying there. And it's the hardest thing in the world to do, but you just got to work at it. There's no easy way.
Yeah. I think that's really good advice, honestly. So, going a little bit back to your blog project, I do think we forgot to touch on kind of what the blog actually is going to be about or what you want it to be.
Well, I want it to be something, a place that people can trust, that people can depend. Whatever I write in there is the truth. And if there's something that is concerning me and I'm writing what I think is true, I might ask in my article for somebody to say, hey, what do you think about this? What are your viewpoints? What could I be missing? And I think that I want it to be a place that somebody can gain something from. If they don't have time to do a lot of reading, and because let's face it, many people have two jobs today. And that gets rough, especially if you have a family. So I had students with two jobs. That's why I say I made myself available.
What kind of inspired you to start this blog with sharing your writings and your thoughts?
I guess when I was teaching, there was a lot of people that didn't know a lot of things. I
Yeah.
mean, they maybe hadn't been exposed to or experienced. Um, and like I say, you don't have time today to read or follow through. And then who are you going to follow? Who are you going to believe? And I hate to say that, but I get on the TV and it's like, who can you trust? I felt like since if I quit work, I could use my experience to share with people.
Yeah.
It's something I still wanted to do.
Yeah. Starting to kind of wrap up, I do have just a few more questions. What is something that you would tell someone who is currently feeling lost or behind in their life? Maybe they haven't found their career path or their calling.
Well, I think I would ask them and talk about different areas of jobs, career focus, um, depending on their age, an assessment overall of where they're at with life. Give them suggestions, and I have to always fall back to the fact that if you ask God to help you, it's going to work out.
Yeah.
What you're destined to do and to be.
Gaining perspective from other people, gaining advice, talking to who you can. Sounds like that's the best area, and also having some kind of faith that there is something out there for you. You do have a purpose. You
Mhm,
just have to be patient, but also work a little bit to find what that is for you.
mhm.
What's something that you know now that you wish you knew when you were maybe my age?
Everything. Well, it was information was limited, but it was more truthful than today. There's so much media, so much more, and commercials. Well, again, if I had finished school, I would have had a lot more knowledge in raising my family and stuff. But there again, if I hadn't come up the way I did, would the alternative have always been better? Would things have turned out as well as some of them have? It's kind of hard to say. Taking a different turn in the road, I feel like it's just taken me this whole lifetime to get where I'm at.
That's true. Yeah. Every every piece of the path was put there for a reason in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave the listeners with today? Anything else you'd like to add?
Just that I'm hoping that they can find a mentor or somebody to help them through their difficulties and not give up. Do not give up. There is a reason you are here. You have a purpose. We're put here, there's a reason. And we need to follow through on that reason. And that's it.
I love it. That's honestly the reason I have this podcast. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I think that kind of wraps up all my questions.
Well, I appreciate you having me, and I enjoy talking with young people. And it wasn't just because I was an old lady that you were being nice. I think you actually were interested in what I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me.
That concludes today's episode. Tune in every Thursday to listen or watch on YouTube and Spotify, or check out audio only on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, and Audible. Make sure to check out the Instagram or the TikTok at findyourpower_podcast, and feel free to DM me there as well. Thank you guys again so much for tuning in and listening today. I appreciate you all for being here and joining me. If you enjoyed, please rate the podcast 5 stars wherever you listen. Leave any comments or reviews. I am open to constructive criticism, but please be nice. And subscribe to the YouTube channel if you are listening through there. And hit the bell notification as well. It really helps the podcast grow. Also, if you have a family member or a friend that you think could benefit from this episode or the podcast in general, we don't gatekeep here. Please send this to them and they may thank you later for it. And lastly, if you'd like to be featured for an interview or a conversation, you can send me an email at the email linked in the podcast description section or shoot me a DM on the Instagram. I will talk to you guys again soon, and don't forget, we will find your power.